Captain's Log Supplemental. Well, the initial inspection worked out pretty well. We actually got it done a little ahead of schedule because, we're still waiting on a couple of systems, so we couldn't really inspect them yet. But so far, passing marks on everything. The name issue is still not quite worked out. The paperwork is finally through, and everything from Starfleet headquarters is looking good. But of course, it never rains, but it pours. Now there's some sort of computer issue going on in the space dock. For some reason, I don't even know how to explain it. The ship's official entry in the local space dock computer is the poop emoji. Now, whatever. We could get that taken care of, but the problem is the auto painters went off before we caught the mistake. So now across the entire front of our ship is USS poop emoji. And it's written out in letters because the auto painters they can only do alphanumerics. It's a whole goddamn thing. I've got a team of 4 ensigns and a lieutenant overseeing them, scraping that off so we can get a new try done. We're gonna be here for another week at least.
Welcome back, everybody, to Captain's Log Supplemental. As always, I am Chris, and I am joined by several friends. Mariah.
Hi.
Stanford.
Hello.
And Rob.
Hello.
Just a reminder to everybody who is listening, please subscribe and rate our podcast. 5 stars only. It is much appreciated. Helps us out, and of course, tell everybody you know who's into Star Trek, and maybe those who aren't, to check out the podcast. So, how's everybody doing today?
I was doing better before I watched this episode.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, hold on.
It was a slight improvement from the last one.
I guess,
No.
it was so bad. The last one was so bad. I don't know. This one felt kind of standardy to me.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there.
No. The last one was good up until the ending.
See, I think that's where we have a disagreement.
The last one was okay until the ending made it bad.
Terrible.
This one was okay throughout, actually.
So, with that, let's get to our summary.
Why-
So we open the episode with a little trip harmonica action.
It's called Precious Cargo. So I was like, well, like baby on board?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I was imagining that sticker on the back of the Enterprise.
yeah.
I mean, it's a trip episode, so anything's possible.
I like me a trip episode, but this was probably
Man, and when
it's not the best one.
he's wailing on that harmonica, I was like, God, just when I thought he couldn't get any hotter.
Yeah, I mean, he clearly was not the one playing it.
No, oh really? I didn't really notice.
Yeah,
They
no,
should
it was.
they should replace Faith of the Heart with his harmonica solo.
It was
Hell
some good
yes.
harmonica. That, unfortunately, I think was probably the high point of the episode. But anyway, he looks out his window and he sees a little ship coming into dock with the Enterprise. He gets a call from Archer to come to docking port 2 for to do some repairs for the ship. Apparently, by the way, like is the want for most people designing cargo ships, that is a flying brick.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was like, uh-oh, Trip's gotta go onto a ship to repair it. Are we gonna get some nipple Trip?
I had to laugh at the design because later on in the episode, they're like taking pot shots at the quote unquote nacelles. And I wanted to be like, Reed, point to me where you see a nacelle on this ship.
Does the word nacelle mean those like slender things, or just where the warp coils are? Is the
I
word?
think it means those slender things.
I guess my question is: does the word nacelle exist outside of Star Trek? Because I don't think I've ever actually heard it used.
It's a good question. I'm not sure.
It does, yeah.
A streamlined container for aircraft parts. Yeah, there's nothing streamlined about this fucking thing.
Nope.
It's like it's like the engine housing on like a jet.
I did not realize that those were also called nacelles. Okay.
Yeah. So Archer and Trip go to meet the aliens there at their little docking port. Apparently, the alien ship is having some type of trouble with some life support system. We soon find out is a stasis pod. that they are having issues with. Everything else on the ship is fine. It's just the stasis pod that's not working. They're carrying a passenger because, in the stasis pod, because they don't have enough, air or food or anything to take care of them while they get to their destination. It's just not fishy at all. Totally reasonable thing.
They seem nice enough.
Yeah, super, super nice guys.
And I guess they have like moist palms because after Archer like shakes their hands, he like looks at his hand, is like, ew.
No, it's because the one guy admitted that they hadn't had a chance to get a bath or a shower in weeks.
Yeah.
So it was just like an icky hands joke.
Yep, because they are unwashed. They did look kind of gross coming in all dirty and stuff. But anyway, time for a bath and a meal at Hotel Enterprise for the aliens, while Trip goes over to check out the stasis pod. That ship looked like garbage, just crap hanging down, and just everything looks jerry-rigged, just terrible. Trip gets to the stasis pod, and of course we do the old, let's see who's in there.
Yeah,
Avoid the circle.
I said, I'm just gonna wipe this away and see how fuckable she is. Like,
yep. And of course we have a sexy pod lady in there. Trip references her as Sleeping Beauty and tries to get to work on fixing the pod. So we all know how this episode was going to go immediately from that point on.
100%.
Absolutely.
Which, by the way, do you know who the pod lady is? This is a famous person who that was.
She looked familiar, but I didn't.
It's
Padma
Lakshmi.
Stuff. That's it. Yeah.
What?
Padma Lakshmi. She hosted Top Chef for a long time in the mid 2000s to mid to late 2000s. And she's been actress and model and stuff, but pretty well known, which is kind of what my deep dive is going to be on guest stars for Star Trek later.
Was she in anything else other than Top Chef? Because I did not watch that show.
Let's see, what else was she in? That's just what I know her from primarily.
This is shit that a good producer would look up for us while we were talking.
Oh, God.
Let's see, she was a model at first.
What was that? What'd you say?
Nothing, sweetie. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, it looks like that was her main thing. She's in little other things. She was on The View for a time, apparently.
She looks like, based on her outfit and like her general complexion and features, she looks like the heroine from the Disney Hercules movie, Meg.
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, I think she's primarily famous for hosting Top Chef and being into food stuff.
Cool.
But yeah, pretty well known person in certain areas.
Anyway. Was that prior to this?
I think Top Chef started on like 2006, so that was actually after this.
After, okay. Because there's a whole scene with her snubbing her nose at some food, and that would have been funny if it was like a reference to her.
That would have been funny, yes.
I think she wrote a couple cooking books, but that might have also come after.
Right, yeah, she did. But yeah, that was after as well. So, back on Enterprise, Archer is offering the aliens to a ride on the faster Enterprise to the destination, and the alien captain, makes excuses to refuse the offer. And once again, totally a normal thing to do, not suspicious at all.
Okay. I have several points to make about this entire thing. Because so far I'm on the dude's side, mostly because, like, I know where this episode is going to go, so, like, that's no fun, right? So I'm like, no, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. First of all, Archer's like, you can dock in our launch bay. That ship is the size of you. No, you can't.
Yeah, right.
What the fuck kind of statement is that?
I also thought that too. I'm like, can he though?
And to the guy's point, like, because Archer's like, well, we can shave your 5-month journey down into a journey of 4 days. And, like, the guy's like, we have a plan here. And it's not like, oh, we're going to show up a day or two early. Showing up 5 months early to something, that's a fucking problem in a lot of situations, right? Like, the guy's not wrong.
Especially a business deal.
Yeah.
Like, even if they got there early, their client might not show up for, another 5 months.
Right.
And
Or
at which point they're just hanging out.
Or if they were transporting somebody, their transported person might not have accommodations for 5 months.
Exactly. So you're like, it's not suspicious at all, but I'm like, I mean, that's quite a drastic cut in your schedule. Like, I don't disagree with this dude.
So, I mean, yes, but also in the scope of this show, it's absolutely suspicious.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, element excuses. Back on the alien ship, Hoshi is working on the alien translation, so she got a whole 2 minutes in this episode. It was great.
Yeah, she did.
I guess
gotta get her.
She
gotta get her guild
immediately read
contract.
Trip like a book.
Mm-hmm. Hoshi notices Trip ogling the pod lady,
who, by the way, did manage to get her eyeshadow squared away before she went into stasis. So that was nice.
Yeah,
of her.
very important. And look, pod lady woke up. She's freaking out in the pod. Back on Enterprise, the alien captain is notified by some alarm thing that there's something wrong with the pod. So he rushes off to go try to figure out what it is. Pod lady's distressed. They pry open the pod, and then alien captain bonks Trip on the back of the head immediately.
Hoshi took off by now, so it's just Trip.
Yeah. Did it actually ever say that, or was it just assumed?
Yeah, Hoshi handed him something, said, "Here's what you need," and then she wandered off. She's like, "Okay, good luck," and she left.
Okay. I don't remember actually saying anything about leaving. I'm like, is Hoshi still on the ship too? Or?
She's just right over there, yeah, get him right in the back of the head. That'll.
The other alien still back in Captain's mess gets call and runs out.
This guy, that guy is funny because he's so much like, oh God, my partner is such a hard ass. I just want to eat a nice lunch and have a bath.
Yep. The Archer calls Reed down to escort the alien because he is now very suspicious as to what's going on because he can't get a hold of Trip. As they approach the alien vessel, alien captain starts pew-pewing at everybody.
I like how Reed meets him in the hallway as I'm Lieutenant Reed, and he kind of nods back at the wall of meat behind him. And he's like, that's crewman Chad back there. He'll be following us as well.
Crewman Chadicus and Bradicus. But as soon as they get there, the alien captain starts opening fire on him and immediately abandons his friends. And
I will say this because there's a little phaser fight here. To this show's credit, they really have improved the phaser fight choreography from the first couple seasons.
Yeah.
Or from the first season, I guess. It has gotten noticeably better from when those Nausicaans just kind of stood stupidly in a hallway and missed.
Yeah.
It has gotten
better. I was proud of him.
Not everyone can, walk on ceilings.
Mm-hmm. It's true. The most superior form of tactics.
It occurs to me that Trip could have figured out there was a problem earlier if he'd bothered to wipe away more of the frost than just enough to see her face. Because her hands were clearly bound.
Yeah, they were. I did notice that as well. I'm like, okay, so she's clearly tied up. I'm surprised he didn't. I mean, scope out a little bit farther down south. That seems like something that he would do. So, alien captain escapes on the ship, breaks the docking port, and flees. We have already established at this point that the alien ship is much slower. So.
Yeah. Archer goes in, Travis, report, and he's it's like chasing a baby. I don't know, they're right there. It's not hard.
Yep.
So this is the point where I have a diatribe.
Oh, good. Okay. I mean, that happens 2 or 3 times an episode, but continue.
Right, but this is a specific one. I have a note here that says diatribe. Okay. Oh, so they're chasing this ship at warp, and then they shoot some phasers and knock it out of warp.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know if y'all remember, but I asked a question earlier in our podcasting history. I guess we can just shoot at warp?
Yeah, that seems to come and go depending on the situation and the needs of the story.
All right. So here's a fun question. How does that work?
It works fine. Shut up. We're moving on.
Cause the way the warp engines theoretically work, right? You creates normal space bubble around you and then you're warping space. So I understand if you shoot a phaser from one side of your warp bubble to another. Fine. Whatever. Pseudoscience nonsense. Great. But as soon as there's a gap between you and the other ship, that space is going by faster than light. You'd shoot your ass right in the face with your own phaser.
Hold up. I'd like to point out the beauty of that sentence. You would shoot your ass right in the face.
Just saying. I'm just saying. So, like,
you're not wrong.
I've come to realize that firing at warp should not work ever, and this is dumb. Unless they have like some kind of exciting, like, well, we have to get close enough to merge the subspace bubbles or whatever, which they do sometimes for stupid reasons, but like, I don't know. Anyways,
The bubbles are really big.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. That's what it is.
They're not. They have little diagrams of them. They're like hugging the ship.
Yep. So, as you mentioned, Enterprise knocks out the ship's engines. They drop out of warp. The cargo ship proceeds to fart on Enterprise and then
I said
immediately jumps back to warp.
It was ship busted ass. And also, like, I feel like fly through it isn't the best strategy when a random gas gets ejected from a ship.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably true.
Yeah,
but it must be a very bad gas because it did shut down the Enterprise's warp engines.
Yeah, this is like the Star Trek equivalent of throwing a banana behind you in Mario Kart.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Did you just say Mario Kart?
Mario Kart? Whatever.
What you say from New York?
You say Mario like my mom says Mario. Mario.
I'm pretty sure that's how my stepdad says it because he grew up in New York City.
Yeah, well, my parents are from Jersey. My dad's from North Jersey.
Same museum.
Deal with it. Museum.
Oh, you've gotten better. You used to say museum, and it was very funny to me.
Oh my god.
So back on the alien ship, Trip wakes up and the pod lady bonks him again. He's having a rough go of it so far. She's got some weird like pick crowbar
double crowbar thing. Like, I don't know. They didn't make it for the show. I'm sure it's actually a real tool, but it seemed very silly.
Yeah. And she's holding it, what I can only assume is not a very effective way to swing it.
I'm like, yeah, you tell him, because she's like screaming at him in some alien language.
Mm-hmm. The universal translator seems to not be working conveniently again. So we get to hear her scream at Trip. Firek soon, which, by the way, the guy's name is like Firek, I guess. I don't know if they ever outright said the aliens' names in this episode.
They did at the very beginning. I can't remember. I'm sorry, they didn't say the names. They said the species name, though.
Okay, because I had to look them up. But he threatens Trip and tells him to repair the pod, do it fast, blah, blah, blah. It's going to take weeks, which is just, of course, cover to try to give him time to escape. Trip tries to continue to talk to the pod lady.
This room is awfully full of things that could be weapons for that guy to just leave Trip in here by himself.
Well, I mean, he can only do so much cleanup, right? It's just when all your junk is laying all over the place.
I was expecting him to fashion like a crude Iron Man suit and fight his way out.
Eventually, Trip does get the translator working, but cannot reach Enterprise on the comm. Kaitama, which is her name, informs Trip of her situation. She is some monarch on some planet.
She looks like a trill.
What's that?
She looks like a trill.
Yeah, kind of.
She does, yeah, with the little head thingies. I agree. But it's never mentioned that.
No, she's from Kraos Prime.
I didn't bother looking it up, so I'm not sure if that is in any way related.
Well, I think Trill are from the planet Trill, so I don't think so.
That makes sense. But yeah, Kaitama doesn't want Trip to try to escape. She says just wait to be ransomed. Which, that would be a long wait if you're waiting 5 months to get to where they're going to get ransomed. I'm with Trip on this one and who says, nah, I'm getting out. Back on Enterprise, Archer questions the remaining alien, who is claiming ignorance. He can't help them. He doesn't know what the warp signatures are or whatever.
Which, I guess, are there just so many warp signatures going through this empty part of space that they can't just well, I guess we'll follow that one?
Yeah, it's intergalactic shipping lane. You don't know.
I mean, they're going, 5 months? They're going 30 times as fast as that ship, give or take, right? Find them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I don't disagree. But that would make the story a lot shorter. Shut up.
Yeah, right.
They also they know where they're going. Because, like, Archer ran the numbers to, like, figure out how much faster they could get there than them.
I assumed that he ran the numbers as in the guy was like, it's a 5.5 month trip, and he just ran the numbers like, well, if 5.5 at warp 2.2, then we could get to that same distance in, I didn't think that he actually had the name of the target planet, but maybe, shit.
Maybe. So Kaitama continues to be a rude person to Trip while they're crawling through the little Jeffries tubes or whatever this ship calls them. Trip is like just trying to escape at this point, and is just trying to convince her to chill. Eventually, Kaitama decides to come along after all, and they eventually squeeze out and find the escape pod they're looking for, which is of course just meant for one person.
He's trying to convince her to come with him, and he's like, you can wait here for that guy if you want, but I tell you, I'm much better company. I noticed, like, oh, they're so gonna bang.
Yeah, it was written in the stars of this episode immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So it is now time to squeeze into the one-person escape pod. And of course, we got to tear the dress at the bottom to show some legs and
yeah, I guess alien skirts don't hike well. Like,
yeah,
she could just pull it up.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Or like Trip could have helped her in.
And also, I don't know. Like, I'm not okay. So I'm all like disabled and junk stuff now. But like before that, I was a pretty strapping dude. Like, I'm not. I was not tiny. It is not that easy to just rip fucking clothing. Like, movies make it look like you just gotta like pinch it here and then tear, and like the clothing will just shred apart at your leisure. That is not how it works.
It's like people in bar fights using beer bottles. They don't break nearly that easy.
No, and when they do, they mostly just shatter, and you're left holding like a couple of shards.
Broken glass, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, they pile in, and the pod is away. I guess they are going to go to a nearby system to try to land and escape. What's his dude in the ship?
There's a system 90 million kilometers from here.
Mm-hmm.
So
90 million.
Pop quiz.
Did you math?
How far do you think the sun is from here?
I knew this at one point.
Kilometers?
What'd you say, Rob?
Like 90,000 kilometers?
Try 150.
Oh, there you go.
150 million kilometers.
So pretty close is what you're saying.
So, yeah, apparently, like, and that's it. He's like, the system is 90 million kilometers from here. I'm like, if a system is 90 million, you're in the system. Like, you're there. Like, and they say, like, it's going to take us a day to get there. Like, that little shuttle pod fucking books it.
Yeah, well, I mean, any ship that is trying to get anywhere in space really kind of has to book it, because otherwise it's going to be a while. So we get more, Trip and Kaitama in the pod, squeezed in hijinks. Kaitama mentions that it's inappropriate to touch the Monarch. Trip has to like bend over her and look in some panel or something, and he's got her knee in his face the whole time.
He could have just told her what, like, hey, can you open that panel right there and just tell me what you see?
No, we had to touch. Kaitama also raises some very valid questions about their plan once they land, in my opinion.
Yeah. Her questioning his plan was valid the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's okay. He grew up in Florida.
But
yep. Yeah. Shortly thereafter, Trip finds the landing thrusters under her butt, of course, and
now he doesn't. Now he is a gentleman. He doesn't just like grab her ass, but he is like. Lift up your butt. I think it's under there. And she's like,
lift your cheeks, lady.
I beg your pardon. He's like, he said like to your rear, your tushy, whatever he said like a couple of words. You're behind. That's what it was.
Oh gosh. Eventually they agree to try to get along until they're rescued. And then we go to Law and Order Enterprise. And we get to our cop show portion of the episode.
This is so bad.
I have fucking pigs. ACAB includes Archer. And like, and Reed comes in like the prisoner, sir, as ordered. Like he's having so much fun.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was my note. ACAB, guess Archer is going to be bad cop. Bad cop. The dialogue was terrible.
No, he was good cop. The dialogue was okay.
Cop.
So let me provide a meager defense of this episode here.
It was like he watched an old cop show.
Right. The dialogue to the scene was acceptable for what it was. But also, Bakula does surprisingly well in a dark room where you can't see his face and like acting stern because that's all he can do. So like Bakula's acting here is actually okay.
Yeah, I would agree. It's still super lame to use him as the good cop.
In this dumb scene, Archer was okay.
Yes. Oh, I concur. But also, like, I don't think this scene is any dumber than some pretty typical Star Trek schlock, you know? Like, I'm not saying it was awesome, but I am saying it's, like, I would not call this bad in relation to, like, some rather mediocre shit out of TNG or whatever, you know?
This reminds me of when like the crew got abducted and they had to like convince a ship's crew to mutiny against their captain to get out. Like it's that same level of like, we need to make them look smarter than, you know, your average starship captain.
Right.
Go.
But like
and
this scene is better than anything with Data as Sherlock Holmes. So like it's okay.
Okay. I mean, I disagree, but that's your opinion. So yeah, T'Pol comes in, and who is now the bad cop, asks for, you know, height, weight, and post-mortem rituals.
She was funny. She was fucking funny.
She was.
Archer says he'll beg her for leniency. He just needs help locating the vessel in return. So we get a little quid pro quo action. Good God. Back on the pod, Kai is hungry and wants some nibbles. They find some what appears to be beef jerky.
Beef jerky, man. I said, now I want some beef jerky. And then like 30 seconds of the scene goes by and I'm like, those are some nice mouth noises we're just kind of doing at the camera here for like sizable, countable seconds of film time.
Yeah, it was awkward. They had that little straw thing they were drinking from too. That
Camelback, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Trip mentions that the pod reminds him of his first car, and it talks about how he used to mac on all the ladies in his crappy car. Drive him out to the point, whatever, Majiggy, and would make his moves on him, which, okay. I see what we're doing. I know this is where we're going.
I'm much
did you
better
notice
company.
that Kaitama also was completely flummoxed by a twist off lid?
I didn't know. I missed that apparently.
Yeah. She was really struggling to open up that beef jerky.
She doesn't do these things. Other people do.
Yeah, and it's not proper for her to associate with men.
Yeah, she's an ambassador.
Yeah, she was once courted, but that was it. She spends time with her retainers.
So Trip analyzes the atmosphere of the planet they're coming up to.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, can we breathe there? And he's like, oxygen, nitrogen, a little bit of methane, nothing we can't handle. Motherfucker, you don't know her biology. Like, methane might be deadly poisonous. You may have just killed her. Like, what the fuck?
No, it's fine. It's fine. They clearly look exactly alike, so they're fine.
And then that's fair. And then they're going down, and he's like, we're like counting off their altitude.
And he's like, hold on to something.
And he's like 800 meters. At least I think they're meters. What does that mean? What does that mean? No,
my favorite part
they're not meters.
I like when he told her to hold on to something and she grabs him.
Yeah, well, there's nothing else to hold on to. Although, it's an escape pod. Does it not have a seatbelt?
Yeah, you would think.
And
they wind up upside down, so
yeah,
I think so.
But when they land, there's no CGI budget for them crashing to the planet, right? Mm-hmm. So we just get this shot of the jungle or the swamp or whatever, and then a pan to them just kind of looking sheepish next to the crashed pod. There was no action whatsoever in that pan.
Nope. It looks swampy. It's very hot, apparently. Trip says it ain't nothing compared to the summers in the Everglades.
Man, shut the fuck up.
Gaitama tells Trip to get naked because he has the scratch and other reasons.
I was expecting him to go all the way down to his underwear there for no reason, but he did not. He just tied his jumpsuit around his waist like a gentleman.
He's like, I need to bandage you because, Obi Trip took Kobe. You're my only hope.
Fuck you. What the fuck?
Come on, I worked hard on that one.
I mean, to be fair, there were some strong like Han Solo, Princess Leia vibes throughout this whole episode.
There definitely was, yeah.
Unlike those vibes, I don't believe Trip actually like forced himself upon her like Han did on Leia.
Well, yeah.
No, it's the other way around, as it turns out.
Katama, we cut the scene and come back to Trip trying to work on something, and Katama brings him a tiny pile of sticks. They start fighting, and look, manufactured sexual tension. You like, as soon as they started roughhousing, I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is going to end at 6. So they wrestle around a bit, and then she just starts making out as you do.
And he clearly has an opportunity to not consent to it and does not take that path. It is a consensual act.
Yep,
no,
this is true.
Only yes means yes.
Only yes means yes.
He never said yes or no. This was non-consensual.
Yeah.
So do you think there was like non-consensual spooning afterwards? Like
I was gonna say, which by the way, we get Trip in underwear, which is by the way full-on bingo for me.
Oh no!
Oh, congratulations!
All right, you got to go for blackout now.
Yeah, now I do.
You don't get a cup. Fuck you.
Oh man, I want a cup. We soon hear something is beep booping. Trip finds a homing beacon that's been activated in the pod, and the alien captain quickly finds them. They made a lovely Trip dummy for him to shoot. By the way,
that dummy was so fucking obvious.
I know. Even in the dark, you could tell it was a coconut.
Yeah, I'm like, man, that's some good stuff right there. Trip jumps on him from a tree and loses the fight immediately.
No, he
punches him several. He punches him several times. and the guy just laughs at him.
Although those are some good punches too. Like he threw some fucking haymakers. Like he was.
You know what he should have done if he really wanted.
I was waiting for the last throw to be a double punch, but it didn't happen.
I was disappointed too.
This is just a recurring theme among the Enterprise staff. Like they all just assume that other alien species are about as strong as humans, and it is always incorrect.
That's true of all of the Star Trek shows forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it even happened in the Kelvin movies.
Yep.
So the the alien captain quickly punches him and starts drowning him in the swamp. Luckily, Kaitama comes through and sticks what's his face in the dome and knocks him out. Shortly thereafter, the Enterprise crew shows up.
She's like, "There's someone else here." Like she's some kind of like Native American tracker. She could smell the current in the wind or whatever the fuck.
We get a dumb Archer joke. This is a bad time. Herder.
My joke here is no, Captain, we did our fucking last night. Thank you very much.
Trip says his goodbyes to Kaitama in the hallways, and she says, "Come by if you want to get nasty anytime."
This scene here with Kaitama in that like Starfleet jumpsuit is proof positive that like T'Pol could wear a normal uniform and still be a smoke show. Like it would be okay because Kaitama looks great in that jumpsuit. Like, but no, we got to put T'Pol in this fucking skin tight nonsense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Side note about uniforms. Why doesn't Starfleet have camo?
So you know what's interesting about that, Rob?
I was gonna say
the Navy didn't back then either. Like unless you were a SEAL, the naval uniform was just like blue.
I'm like 90% sure that like the Marines team they have on the ship in the later seasons does wear camo.
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, like I guess it makes sense if they're not like always leaving the ship.
Yeah, that's fair.
They're always leaving the ship.
They are leaving it an awful lot.
All right, well, that wraps up our summary of the episode. When we get back, we will do a little deep dive.
Rating,
that's right. Rating. I forgot. You're right. God, I'm
2
jumping the gun.
stars.
So honestly, this was like going back through it has made me want to lower it.
Damn!
It was so cheap. This whole thing was just a constant roll of like played out tropes. It was not good.
You're not wrong. I think I am going to go 2 on this one.
I think like the only reason I'm saying 3 is because like I don't disagree with your statement, Rob, but the problem is that I don't think that it is, in my opinion, these overused tropes are the same ones that all Star Treks forever have always used. So like that's why it feels just typical Star Trek. It's like whatever.
Okay, but you also have to think about it in this way. This is now the 3rd dud in a row.
No.
So
We are British Bake Off on this podcast. You rate the show based on its standalone merit, not on how bad the show is entirely, or else I would never have gone above a 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 2 for me is where I'm at.
Alrighty.
All right. Well, now when we get back, we will do a little deep dive into guest stars on Star Trek. All right, welcome back, everybody. All right, so for today's deep dive, I just wanted to explore some of the past guest stars of various Star Trek shows, and just kind of enjoy the really vast range of them. There's a long history of guest stars on Star Trek, and sometimes they're kind of like this weird, like they were on Star Trek before they actually became famous.
Oh, I can name like 2 or 3 examples of that.
Mm-hmm. Like Pat Lakshmi on this episode was certainly a good
that
example.
was
Though I think
not
she
one of the examples I would have used.
Although I think she was like a model at the time that she did this, but obviously not as famous as she is now. So I want to start out with one of the most ridiculous episodes of Star Trek, which is when The Rock guest starred on an episode of Voyager.
Yeah, he's in Voyager for like a hot minute.
What?
Yeah, he fights Jerry Ryan in a wrestling match, of course.
Oh, that's fair.
She does beat him convincingly.
Bear in mind that this is like Scorpion King era, right? Like those late 90s.
Yes,
Wait,
this is young
2000.
Rock.
But yeah, it was like just at the peak or like right after his like wrestling career and when he was starting to get into acting.
Yeah,
so,
like he does like his eyebrow thing and everything. Like he does his
Yeah.
whole wrestling bit in the show.
Yeah, there was a moment there where The Rock was the biggest goddamn thing since sliced bread.
Mm-hmm. The next one I wanted to touch on was there was an episode of DS9 that Gabrielle Union was in, which I was shocked to learn in doing my research for this. She was actually a Klingon in the episode Sons and Daughters. She was one of the Klingons that was teasing Worf's son Alexander in that episode.
For the people at home who don't know who Gabrielle Union is, because obviously, like I know, could you tell us like anything else that she's been in?
So she was in a lot of stuff at the time. She's currently married to Dwayne Wade, the basketball player. She's mostly like a social media personality at this point in her career, but she was in Bring It On, Bad Boys 2.
Was she the daughter in Bad Boys 2?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, interesting cameo there. I was also in 10 Things I Hate About You. So yeah, she had a moment there.
Wow, Bring It On.
Where she was...
Bring It On. 10 Things I Hate About You. That's some Mariah shit right there.
I was gonna say Kelsey loves that.
Yep. The next one is another kind of different type of guest star appearance. There was Stephen Hawking appeared in an episode of The Next Generation. Do you remember the context of his appearance?
He was Stephen Hawking. They were playing poker.
That's right. Yep. It was Data's game of poker with various famous, people. He had like Albert Einstein and stuff in there too. So, but obviously Stephen Hawking played himself in that episode. Episode was Descent.
Oh yeah.
All right. So next we have Sarah Silverman was guest starred on 2 episodes of Voyager.
It was a 2-parter.
Yep. Future's End Part 1 and 2.
Future's End, yeah.
Yep, she was, let's see.
She was I can tell you, she was like a doctorate student and an intern at like an astronomical observatory near LA.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, yep, she was in that. I remember saying, I'm like, is that Sarah Silverman? She was very young at the time.
She was very young. She must have been like 17-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe a little older.
Next, we have Kelsey Grammer, who was also a Next Generation. Do you remember his appearance there?
Rob, do you know?
No, I don't remember him on
He's
that.
the
Wait,
captain.
No, he's an admiral, right?
No,
Captain.
well, close. He's
Captain?
the captain of the Enterprise C, right? Was it that
No,
one?
he's the Bozeman's captain. who
Oh,
helped
the Bozeman.
Enterprise.
I'm sorry, different episode. Yeah.
They get stuck in a temporal causality loop.
I was thinking of the one where the C shows up, but that's a different temporal causality loop.
That it 100% is a different temporal causality loop. It happens from time to time in Enterprise, you know. But yep, he was captain of the ship. It was pretty entertaining actually. The next one I wanted to mention was Jason Alexander. Also made a guest appearance on Voyager. He was apparently had always wanted to be on Star Trek.
Think Tank.
He was in the episode Think Tank. That's right, where he plays Kuros, the spokesperson for a group of alien scholars.
He actually does a pretty good job.
Yeah, I mean he's a good actor. So
that episode's actually pretty good. That's like one of Voyager's better like standalone episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a good episode. I do remember that. All right, next on the docket, we have Ashley Judd. She was in 2 episodes of The Next Generation. This is, I think, before she got mostly famous.
That name sounds familiar, but I'm not putting a face to her.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to keep doing this for you, aren't I?
You should have done it during your research.
No, that's too much work. Shut up.
Man, I don't know names. I'm so bad at names.
Let's see.
I think, wasn't she in the Divergent movie? Mariah might know her.
Probably her biggest one might have been Double Jeopardy.
Wow, I didn't see that, but that was forever ago.
Okay, I'll try to help him out and send him some information.
I'm not good at this.
Kiss the Girls, Heat.
Man, any movies I've seen.
Isn't Twin Peaks a few episodes of that?
Any movies I've seen.
All right, well, I don't know. Maybe just broaden your horizons. What can I tell you? But she was in Darmok and The Game. The Game is the one where she was primarily in. That's the one where Riker brings that stupid game on board the ship.
It's like, it's so addictive. It's the dumbest fucking game.
It's the dumbest game. Yep. Ashley Judd is the kind of love interest for Wesley Crusher on that. I don't know. Yeah. Girlfriend, friend, whatever you want to call it.
He could try looking up her face so he could recognize her. But
Wow. I don't think I've seen any of these movies except for Divergent. I guess, was she her mom in that? Or
I believe so.
Okay, well, fuck.
So the next one I had was one you would never guess because he was in full costume the entire time. Mick Fleetwood from the band Fleetwood Mac. He was in an episode of The Next Generation called Manhunt. He was one of those like fish people who got beamed on and have like that big tub of whatever they shove their faces into and eat. He was one of the fish people.
Yeah, okay. The ones that they like go into stasis as soon as they show up.
Yep. Uh-huh.
It's like the third or fourth episode of that show.
Yep. Mick Fleetwood.
That's like the dream, right? To get recruited for a Star Trek episode where you're playing like the bit like alien actors.
I believe that might be the first episode that Loxana shows up.
I think you might be right there.
Yeah.
One other one is I tried to include one original series in here because I just didn't know any of the actors except this one.
Well, you know what? Here, I could take it. Did you know that William Shatner was in that?
Stop it. Ted Cassidy was on the episode "What Are Little Girls Made Of." He was famous from being Lurch in the Addams Family. So.
Oh, hey, Lurch.
Huh.
Yep. Another musician who made an appearance on Star Trek was Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine. He was on the episode of Voyager called Good Shepherd. his face was actually viewable in this one, unlike Mick Fleetwood. He appeared as Crewman Mitchell in that episode.
Oh, Crewman Mitchell.
Yeah, definitely. Totally. You know.
No, well,
is.
that's the only crewman that's ever mentioned across all of Voyager.
Exactly. Probably the most interesting guest appearance I'd seen was Abdullah Ibn al-Hussein, who was the King of Jordan at the time. Was a guest appearance in Voyager as an uncredited extra. The episode Investigations.
How does that go uncredited?
Because he was just in LA and he asked to be on a show, and they put
probably.
him on.
Yeah, he cameoed.
He was like, for a while, he was like, because it's the young one, right? The young guy, not his dad.
Correct. Yes.
He was like this. He was like the hot king of Jordan that everyone was all fawning over, because like he's one of the good despots, you know. It was like one of those things back then. Yeah.
Next we have, of course, I had to mention it, Dean Stockwell, who of course played Al in Quantum Leap, was in Detained on Enterprise.
I'm actually surprised that Dean Stockwell is in only one episode, because his acting career spans several of these shows. You
are correct in that.
I have to imagine it's just because Bakula was also involved.
Maybe,
Probably.
Yeah.
We also have another interesting one. Joe Piscopo was in an episode of Next Generation. Joe Piscopo, of course, was on Saturday Night Live for a number of years, but also had a pretty long career as a stand-up comic. But he was in the Outrageous Okana? I don't know how to say that. But that was the one where the roguish dude came onto the ship and was handsome and stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Okay. I don't think we could mention Next Generation, of course, without mentioning Whoopi Goldberg, who was a recurring character, was on over 30 episodes of Next Generation. I did kind of have a tough time of her putting on this list because she was, in a number of episodes, but was not a kind of normal cast member because go several episodes without seeing her.
And she was just starting to hit her high, when that show was hitting its stride too.
Yeah.
So she was a big actor in the 90s.
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. Another one from a more recent show was Rainn Wilson on Discovery, of course, as what's his face?
Mudd.
Harry Mudd. Yes, Harry Mudd. He was in Choose Your Pain and Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. So he played. I did like his Harry Mudd in there. I thought I did.
He did a good job. Yeah.
He was great.
Let's see here. Ronnie Cox was a famous actor. He was on Chain of Commands Parts 1 and 2 as the much disdained in Star Trek fandom Jellicoe. But he was in a lot of stuff, mostly earlier in his career. But made a couple episodes there. Let's see. Only a couple more. Oh, I thought this one was interesting. The voice of Bobby Hill was voiced by a woman, Pamela Adlon. She also was on an episode of The Next Generation called Who Watches the Watchers. That's the one where they kind of go down to that one planet, and they have that. There's that outpost that's studying them, and then something short circuits, and they find them. She was kind of the main alien woman in that one. So I thought that was interesting. And then the final one, no, two more. We have one of my favorite actors, John Rhys Davies, was in Voyager on a couple episodes concerning flight in Scorpion as none other than Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh, yeah, he was. He's a good actor. He's fun. Yeah. He's Gimli, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep, he was.
I first saw him in Sliders.
Sliders, yes.
Yeah.
Sliders. And then finally, I had to end it with Enterprise. I had to end it with Enterprise. We have Paul Big Show White II, who was another wrestler. He's on an episode of Enterprise called Borderland, which we have not seen yet. That is an episode. Do you know which one I'm talking about, Stanford?
Borderlands?
Yeah, it's the one where it's the Orion and T'Pol gets sold.
Oh, Jesus. No, I don't remember it, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah. There's this screenshot from the episode which pretty much sums that episode up. So
Alrighty.
yep, he was a enormous man who was a professional wrestler at the time.
Sure.
So that concludes our show. It is, of course, not a non-exhaustive
No,
list.
because I'm about to talk about 3 more.
Oh, yeah? Give it to
Okay,
me.
so these are ones that I just remembered off the top of my head, okay? Kirsten Dunst is in
Yep.
Next Generation. She's
I
like
did
a
see her
child.
on there, but
And
she
I
was a
remember-
child, yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching, it was another Loxana episode, weirdly enough. I remember watching the TNG through, like, I don't know, like a few years ago, and I saw her and I'm like, that kid's face looks so fucking familiar. Because Kirsten Dunst has a pretty unique look to her face. And I was like, motherfucker, is that Kirsten Dunst? And yes, she's got to be like 7 or 8. She is a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is very young.
The other one was Daniel Day Kim. He's the Asian guy from Lost. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
There's actually a couple guys who were on Lost who were on episodes. The older guy from Lost is also
Oh yeah,
on.
he is in something, isn't he? I forgot.
Mhm. He's the Next Generation.
Yeah. He's an alien in Voyager. But the one that I really wanted to mention, May Carol Jemison. So she currently has I believe, it may not be correct anymore because they may have changed it or they may have done it again in the later shows. But she was originally the only actual astronaut to be on Star Trek. She's the first African-American woman in space, and she was in the episode with the Riker clone.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
She's like running like the tactical station or something on the bridge. The thing that for me personally is that I actually met this woman when I was a kid because I went to in Kansas City. I grew up in like a black neighborhood, so I went to a private school, like a magnet school. I don't know if y'all have magnet schools
so
around
white.
here. No. It was a black school. Like I said, I don't know if y'all have magnet schools around here. They're like semi-private. It's hard to explain. It's kind of like a public school where you wear uniforms, and learn Latin for some reason. I don't fucking know. But I was at like a science competition because I was a little dork even in 4th grade, or 3rd grade, and she was there and she was like, saying hi to all the kids and stuff. And I have like, I think my
really
mom
cool.
still has. I think I have actually a signed autograph, like an autograph of her picture. It's really cool. Yeah. So yeah, she, I don't know if like, I don't know, Mark Kelly or some shit's probably been on Star Trek by now, but, back then she was the only actual astronaut to be on the show.
Very cool. Rob, do you remember any that we haven't mentioned?
No.
Yeah. Well, your users contributed it, I think. Thank you.
I got one more actually. Did you know that Leonard Nimoy was in the original show?
Stop it.
Dude.
All right. Well, I think with that, we can end this segment. And when we get back, we will do a little bit of potpourri.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So for this week's potpourri segment, I thought we could play a little game.
I like
I have
games.
tentatively called it Star Trek Projects Redlight, Greenlight.
Oh, God.
So I was reading some stuff this week about, Discovery's ending next year. It's getting canceled after season 5. Prodigy, got canceled, only to be resurrected on Netflix. And
Sorry.
it got me thinking about various canceled Star Trek projects.
Does Discovery count as canceled? I thought they were planning to stop it after 5.
The way they talked about it, they made it sound like it was supposed to continue on for several more seasons.
What the fuck
Or
were
it
they
was
planning on
prematurely ended.
doing?
I don't know.
As I say, 5 seasons, that's a pretty solid run for that show, I think.
I would say so.
Well, so hold on. So TOS was 3 seasons, well, 2.5. TNG and Voyager were 7, and DS9. Those 3 were all 7 because it was like a thing. And then this show was only 4.
4.
So Actually, 7 is most of the Star Trek shows have been 7 seasons up until the current ones.
I said my sentence the way I did on purpose, though. That show is 5 seasons is a good run.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant that show is in like Star Trek in general.
No. I meant that specific show.
Yeah, I mean, I like because it's one of those things where the stakes just kept getting higher and higher, and it's like, okay, wrap in season 5. Okay, we're done. Like there's no higher stake at this point.
Yeah.
So anyway, steak. Canceled Star Trek projects.
Mm.
The first one that came up was I don't think it was originally supposed to be a spinoff. I think originally it was a standalone project that the concept then got absorbed into the original series as a well, if nobody wants to watch this pilot, we're just going to make it into a Star Trek episode and then try to sell it after, it's wildly successful or whatever. So it's the episode called, and oddly enough, it was also, the episode was named after the potential show, Assignment Earth. This is the one where there's like this human alien hybrid who gets sent back to Earth to try to protect the timeline. His name is Gary 7. And they wanted this to be a standalone show. So like
Bob 3.
I guess so. I don't know, man.
Is Gary 7 from TOS? Is that where the Fallout 3 reference comes from?
I don't know. I wonder. You mean like the Gary Vault in Fallout 3?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting. I never really thought about it before. Maybe that would be fun. That would be a fun little nod.
Most of Fallout is references to other science fiction, so it would not surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically this whole show was supposed to be about this person who travels back in time and tries to save Earth, essentially.
Does he hope each time that the next leap will be the leap home?
Probably. Probably. So anyway, I thought with this game, we could just get a red light or green light from the group here, and then see which ones we would actually green light for actual projects.
So you're just going to give us like a synopsis, or
you're going to give us a pitch?
Yep. And then this one is getting a red light from me. This sounds really lame.
I mean, like I said, it's Quantum Leap, which I watched the shit out of. I green light that shit.
Ugh.
Oh, big red light for me. It sounds dumb as hell. I mean, the guy's name is Gary 7. Come on.
That's incredible. That's some good naming conventions right there, because what happened to the other 6 Garys? We'll never know. Is he the last Gary? Then like a cliffhanger for season 3 of this show, Gary 12 could show up and it's like, whoa.
I hate all of what you just said right now.
Yeah, we're like bridging into some weird Doctor Who territory that I'm not really a fan of.
I'm not a fan of Doctor Who in general, and I know that's blasphemous, but I just don't like it.
I've tried to watch it, and I don't know, maybe I just watched the wrong one because I know there's so many of them, but
I've tried to watch them as well. I always watch, I've tried to watch the ones that are this is the greatest episode of television that's ever been made. It just happens to be a Doctor Who episode or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'll watch it.
Yeah. A lot of it was a little too wishy-washy for me.
It's and I mean this in the most pejorative way possible. It might just be too British.
Oh god.
Oh gosh. All right, what's next?
All right, time to save this. So next was an actual spinoff, and this one was pretty interesting. So it was called Hope Ship. It was supposedly some attempt by Roddenberry and a co-writer named Darlene Hartman as a backup to extend the life of the franchise if fans or network execs ever got tired of the adventures of Kirk and Spock and McCoy, essentially. It was supposed to feature Dr. Mbenga on a Federation hospital ship called the USS Hope. That was all they gave us.
Well, shoot, I greenlight that. That sounds interesting.
I would greenlight it, but I'd make them change the name of the show and the name of the ship.
Yeah, the name, I don't know why they call it Hope Ship. That's kind of lame. But yeah,
because it was the 60s, man. That's
General Hospital.
They weren't good at naming stuff. Yeah.
It's super on the nose.
I mean, the name of the show is Star Trek. That's the whole name. What do they do? I don't know. They wander among the stars or some shit. All right, I got this.
Yeah. And like I don't know, like for this to work now, I think it would be better because we've got a more fleshed out Mbenga from Strange New Worlds, who's
Sure.
a very interesting character.
Absolutely.
So I would give it a green light.
I have always been of the opinion that I would also give it a green light. I've always been of the opinion that like it would be nice to see stuff inside the Star Trek universe that is not just fucking Starfleet centered nonsense. Like, oh, we're out here on our own exploring shit or whatever. Like the idea of like this is a hospital ship and here's the kind of shit that they have to deal with sounds fucking fascinating. Like I would watch the hell out of that.
Yeah. I think it's the same kind of reason that I appreciate the direction they went with like the whole crew of the Cerritos. Like they're not about that initial like discovery of aliens. It's about like cleaning up the mess that the previous starships left behind.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you do it in like a modern way, so like you start with like they're a hospital ship, and so like they're dealing with stuff on, day-to-day planets and like, there's a plague they have to deal with or whatever. And then like at the end of the season, the fucking Dominion War breaks out or some shit, right? So then the second season is them being a war medical ship, which is like a very different set of stresses and problems.
It's MASH in space.
Kind of, yeah. And then the war ends, and then you have another season where it's like everyone trying to get back to their normal lives, even though they've all been traumatized by the war. Like you could do some good shit with a show like that.
I agree. Yeah.
I like it. All right, green light for that one. Planet of the Titans. So before the original Star Trek the Motion Picture, this was the movie that was supposed to happen, but it was canceled after the studio, like they just couldn't foresee sci-fi fans being willing to pay to watch two huge movies in the same year. The problem was it was due to be released right around the time that the original Star Wars came out, and the studio was like, "This is a lost cause." So they
was
saw
the original Star Wars predicted to be as big as it was? I didn't think it was.
Not even a little bit, but it may have been. No, actually, that's a good question.
So like, that's the thing. It
was also delayed,
right? And they saw like the sci-fi, I guess, genre as not being particularly sellable,
like
that
movie theaters.
That I believe, because that was that's why Star Wars was such a big risk,
right?
Which is funny considering that it's not actually all that sci-fi. It just has spaceships, but it was generally considered like, oh yeah, no, sci-fi is for TV pulp fiction bullshit. The movies have to be more serious than that.
Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of funny because after the booming success of Star Wars, they're like, we need to put this movie out yesterday. And then they greenlit the script for the motion picture and
the long episode of Star Trek.
Yeah, basically. Keep that in mind because that's going to come up again here in a second. But anyway, Planet of the Titans was supposed to be about basically Kirk like gets hit by some EMP pulse, freaks out, ditches Enterprise, and like goes flying off towards a black hole. Enterprise tries to go save him, and along the way they realize that the Klingons are also heading to this same place. Just on the inside of the black hole, there's a planet that's supposedly lost.
With dinosaurs?
It was supposed to be the original homeworld of these like mysterious Titans that apparently had traveled back to like a prehistoric Earth and taught humans how to use fire and all. And it's like the whole like ancient aliens hypothesis, like it was playing into all that. Kirk winds up, driving Enterprise into the black hole.
Whenever you use the word driving with a spaceship.
They get transported back
beep.
several like tens of thousands of years into the past, and turns out the Titans were the humans all along.
Okay, this is dumb. Redlight.
Redlight. Now, unless a slee stack shows up, I don't want it. That's an obscure ass reference.
Yeah,
we both got it.
This was a really weird. I don't know what they were thinking. Like, I'm sure it seemed clever at the time.
It sounds
back
like
in the '60s, but
it sounds like
at this point.
Yeah, it sounds like just like an episode. Like it's just like, yeah, that sounds like a dumb episode.
Yeah. So speaking of dumb episodes, Star Trek Phase 2. So this was supposed to be a live action series that followed up after the original series.
Yep.
But it was canceled. And at least some of the script ideas were then repurposed for Star Trek the Motion Picture. One of which was the whole like finding God out in space kind of thing.
That would be Star Trek V.
Oh, right.
The Final
Oh,
Frontier.
I'm thinking of The Final Frontier, which also keep that in mind because that's going to come back here in a second. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if there was enough left after the 3 seasons. Because, like, bear in mind, it was almost canceled after 2 seasons, the original series, that is. And then it only survived because of, like, a fan write-in campaign. Like, people got together and, like, inundated the studio with letters to bring it back for season 3. And it didn't do particularly well in season 3 either. Like, at that point, I think Roddenberry had mostly, like, bailed, and I don't know.
It's
It
going to
wasn't
be
doing well.
It's going to be interesting when we get to TOS because, like, it's one of those things where it's like, as a millennial, like, obviously I wasn't alive back then, but like, to me, it feels like one of those things where, like, we assume it had all this clout and influence, but that's only like because it happened to survive the intermittent, like, 30 years. Like, did the show suck? Like, did everyone hate it back then?
No, it just wasn't as popular as the studio wanted it to be. So, like, it did well, but not well enough to justify keeping it on.
Yeah.
And they got lucky because they had such a dedicated fan base. The thing that really saved it was syndication. Once they syndicated the series and pushed it out, like, that's when it really burst into popularity.
And that's what Desilu did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know that there was really too much of a story left to tell with that crew. I just don't know that there was enough content there. I could be wrong, but
as I understand it, basically phase 2 was the next generation. Like, that's what they were going for.
Sort of.
And they said no, so he made his movie, and then in the 90s, or the 80s, they're like, what about TV show again?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and the animated series helped, keep him in the zeitgeist too. That was weirdly successful.
How many seasons was the animated series?
Hanna-Barbera, 3 or 4?
2 or 3?
Was it only 2? It's more than like 6 episodes.
Yeah. I want to say it was
look it
either 2 or 3 seasons. I can't remember. That I've only seen like a couple episodes of. I never really devoted a lot of time.
Oh, good old Hanna-Barbera, baby.
Yeah.
Well, there were only 2 seasons, but there were 22 episodes of it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wouldn't greenlight this one. I don't know that there was enough left in the tank. But that's just me.
What was it even following though? Like, was it still Kirk and Spock?
It was still Kirk and Spock, McCoy, Scotty.
No.
Like, it was
okay, then yeah,
crew
no,
from
fuck
the
that.
original series.
They had their chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think yeah.
I would agree. I think that it was iconic enough that they could, move on to.
You
to
had
other
your
people.
chance on TV. Then you got off of TV and went to movies. You don't get to come back to TV. Picard tried that and it was fucking awful. So, like, you're not allowed to do that.
All right. Next one, we're going to jump a couple of decades forward here into the early 90s. Did you know that there was supposed to be a Loxana Troy sitcom?
No.
Redlight, next.
Oh, God. So
it got
hold
pitched
on.
by Roddenberry and Magel. I can never remember how to pronounce her name. And basically, it was supposed to be a weekly recurring show on the newly minted Sci-Fi Channel.
Interesting. So
I watched the Sci-Fi Channel launch.
I will say that going back and rewatching Next Generation, I appreciate Luoxana's character more than I did when I initially watched it.
Yeah, she was pretty great.
Troubling sexual assaulty things aside. But actually, she was great in general on that show. I don't know if it could fill an entire show.
My issue isn't Loxana. My issue is 90s sitcom. Like, 90s sitcom is a terrible, terrible medium for any kind of Star Trek. Because at that point, you're just a sitcom with Star Trek, like, costumes.
Setting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if they tried to cut it down into like a half an hour time bit?
Jesus Christ. It would be like, the next thing you're going to tell me, they're going to animate it.
Yeah. So I don't know. For this one, I would say intriguing, but red light.
Yeah, I think I'm red light there as well.
Next up, this one will be of particular interest to Stanford. Proposed in the early 2000s, a Ferengi animated series featuring the adolescent years of Quark and Rom.
Oh, for fuck's sake, no.
No, absolutely not.
Red light.
The less Ferengi time, the better. God.
The less Ferengi time, the better, mainly because there is not a single minute of Ferengi that is not somehow horrifically problematic. Yeah. Regardless of how fun Quark can be sometimes, it's still just shit things to like put on television, you know? And and Quark almost makes it worse, right? Because like when you have a species that is supposed to be a satire or a critique of something horrible, you can't make them sympathetic because then that undermines your critique. Quark was still a sexist, capitalistic douche nozzle, even at the very end when he became friendly. Like, that didn't change. But instead, the audience was like, well, all right, they're not that bad. And that's a problem. Like, that's not how you handle toxicity. It's the same, and this is the same goddamn thing with that fucking Emperor in Discovery. Like, no, I don't care how maternal of a figure she seems to Michael. The bitch is a fucking mass murdering genocidal despot. There's no redemption for that. But because we have to have the character, and it's not against Michelle Yeoh, she's a phenomenal actor. But like, because the character had to be front and center for so much, the writing made her sympathetic, and the audience is gonna like, oh, well, it's, you know, oh, she's so cool, she's badass, yada, yada, yada. That's fucking terrible. It's terrible writing.
You know they're making her into a movie, right?
I'm aware.
Yeah. That was
Section 31 itself is fucking stupid.
Wait.
I think it's a show. I don't think it's it is a movie, isn't it?
No.
Like the Mirror Universe one is getting their own thing?
Yes.
No, she is.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a live-action TV series featuring Michelle Yeoh, like reprising her role as like alternate universe Philippa Georgiou. And it was announced earlier this year that it was instead being redeveloped as a straight-to Paramount Plus film.
It's going to be before she went back.
I will not watch that, probably.
Section 31 is the dumbest shit. Like, the whole concept is stupid.
It's very weird.
And then, on top of it, we're going to, idolize this fucking genocidal despot. No, thank you.
She's an anti-hero, though.
No.
She wasn't, though, because she didn't fight against any bad people.
I was saying that sarcastically.
God damn it.
But I'm just saying that because there's so many shows that just make bad people this anti-hero thing it's supposed to be.
This is why I'm so nervous about Cavill making a Warhammer 40K show.
Yeah.
Because
glorifying fascism is never
even
a good
if
thing.
the show doesn't do it badly, the fans are going to be fucking insufferable. They're going to be Nazi douche nozzles.
Yeah. I've looked at stuff from those subreddits, and it's I don't like this.
Right.
They're all saying it it's real, and I get this is a fan subreddit, but
when
also,
you start saying Xeno the way we used to say Jew back in the day, it gets real bad real quick.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
Oh God.
Anyway, we're going to take this back into a more positive direction here. This one I think you will actually be interested in here, Stanford, if only because it would further solidify Larry Niven's presence in the Star Trek universe.
Hell yes.
Star Trek: The Lions of the Night. So this was supposed to be, again, came from the early 2000s. And in some ways, it kind of sounded like it might have been a precursor to Prodigy. Again, CGI animation. And it was going to be an adventure where Sulu takes command of the Enterprise B and has to stop a Kzinti invasion of Federation space.
Yeah, so this was, if I understand it correctly, this, and I'm not surprised you said early 2000s, this is a repurposing of the original script for season 5 of Enterprise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This was the plan for season 5, was the Kzinti invasion. That would have been amazing. But like,
would've
no,
been
we
cool,
can't. We can't do that. So I'm not surprised that they took that kind of that arc that they had and tried to repurpose it.
Yeah.
I I much prefer shows that don't have old people on them. Sorry, that's the wrong word. I mean, like, I don't mean like old people. I mean like rehashed characters. Like, give me new characters. So like, I don't
Sure.
need Sulu there. I don't even need the Enterprise. That's the other thing too. Can we get away from the Enterprise? Like, I'm done with the Enterprise. It's stupid ship anyways. Like,
We got a ship that runs on mushrooms. You want that?
besides, Sulu never was in. He was in the Enterprise B. He was in the Excelsior.
Listen,
Ugh.
I don't know what to tell you. I think that the premise is interesting enough that it deserves a green light.
I would give I give the green light on the caveat that we pull any reference to like original characters out. Like, I want a whole new set of characters.
That's fair.
Greenlight.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
Yeah. We got.
Have we disagreed on anything yet?
Yeah, that first one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Assignment Earth. Star Trek: The Final Frontier. So this was.
I saw
again-
that movie, Redlight. Just don't.
No. I'm sorry. It's not Star Trek: The Final Frontier. It's just Star Trek: Final Frontier. So
No, it should be called Star Trek Final Frontiers, or like Star Trek The Fate of the Frontier.
The finalist
So-
frontier.
It's like
Yeah,
Star Trek F7 Faster and Frontierier or whatever.
Star Trek: The Final Wall. So this was originally supposed to be a fully fleshed out animated series that was then delegated to a web series, and before it was just finally canceled. This was supposed to follow a Federation Romulan war in the 26th century, like about 200 years after the Next Generation. So clearly, they went a different route with the whole story in Picard. But this was going to follow, again, the crew of the Enterprise, basically trying to recover post-war. They said that it was supposed to be like a darker, more grittier version of Star Trek, which I don't know if taking it the animated route would be the way to go.
What was
I
the
also
time
don't
frame for
believe-
this?
I was just about
This
to ask
was,
the same question.
Like mid 20-aughts, so like 2000.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, so
2006.
you're in that grittier television era, like when
Yeah,
like
I was gonna
Stargate
say.
Universe came out, and
Right.
yeah.
Everything was darker and grittier there.
And I will say, Stargate Universe, phenomenal show, phenomenal.
That was
show.
a good show. I was sad that it never got its legs.
Same.
I could not. I could actually see that concept of like, as long as they didn't do the war itself, as long as it was like post-war reconstruction and like tensions and stuff.
Yeah, I think there's interesting plot lines there.
I think you could tell some interesting stories. I don't like the Enterprise doing it again. Can we do another fucking ship? But like, whatever. Yes.
Thanks, Mariah.
Wait, am I being yelled at or Stanford?
No,
being yelled
it's
at? I can't
me.
tell.
I'm very excited.
Um,
You're allowed to just come on the podcast and be like, sorry, everyone, I'm just your producer here. Stanford, shut the fuck up.
No, Jesus Christ. Every time Chris tries to say something, you start talking, and I'm like,
Well,
can you not hear him?
Well,
He needs to stop being
in his defense, that is whenever he hears anything, he comes on and starts to try to talk. So, I mean, it's not specifically me.
It is you right now. Is that why you asked him to move away from the microphone? You wanted an excuse?
Yeah, it's easier to shout him down if he's not so loud. I'm sorry. I will. Okay, I'm gonna keep my opinions to myself on the next one.
oh man,
No,
this-
you don't have to keep your opinions to yourself. See, there's this ebb and flow to a conversation. And when someone is talking, you listen. And before you speak, you give a slight pause to make sure that they are done.
Yeah, I don't know if he can do that or not.
Look. How can people know that they're wrong if I don't interrupt them right away and tell them? I don't understand.
Anyway, what's the next one?
All right, this is going to be the last one here. So it's Star Trek 4 in the Kelvin timeline. They have had several writers and directors interested in the project. Like at one point, Quentin Tarantino even threw his name into the ring.
Okay, I want to see a Quentin Tarantino Star Trek just for the chaos. Just for the chaos.
this whole like pre-production process was complete chaos. Like they had negotiations set up with like Chris Pine and Hemsworth to bring them back in. It sounded like they almost kind of wanted to do like an Indiana Jones and Daddy Indiana Jones thing, similar to like Last Crusade, but like the return kind of like fell through because negotiations stalled with the actors. Neither of them wanted to come back for another movie. They brought in like a new set of writers at one point and decided like, you know what, why don't we do a whole reboot again and just completely start over. At that point, Tarantino like formally dropped out of the project. And like after even more waffling, it was completely removed from Paramount's release schedule. So like it's not even in the tubes anymore. And like I really like the Kelvin Timeline movies, but after the third movie, I don't know if they've got anything else there.
I mean, if Quentin Tarantino does it, though, like, there's just going to be a bunch of close-ups of Zoe Saldana's feet.
Entrance to every scene, feet. Yeah, no, I mean, I like I said, I would greenlight it just for the chaos.
I find Quentin Tarantino to be too full of himself at this point. I would not greenlight that show.
Yeah, I would.
I don't need feet. I don't need him just like, because Quentin Tarantino is going to have to come in as a character and say the N-word. Like that's all he can do in these shows, in these movies. So like, I'm good. I'm good at Quentin Tarantino. Thank you.
Yeah, like
go retire.
I might, if they want to like completely do a reboot of like the actual original series and not the Kelvin timeline, that might be better. But like, I just don't know that. I really love the Kelvin timeline. I don't think there's anything else there.
Can they do like a show series with that cast? Like, I feel like it would be weird at that point.
I don't think Pine or Quinto would do it because they're not really
not even talking about that. Yeah, like, I mean, like, just like the whole tone of like a Star Trek show is completely different from the Kelvin movies.
I mean, I kind of feel like that's what Strange New Worlds is.
I completely disagree with you.
I agree. Well, so I will say, Rob, to your credit, before I tell you how wrong you are, I agree with you in terms of aesthetics.
That's what I mean.
There is like the lens flare, the colors of the uniforms popping against the white of the ship. Yes, like aesthetically they are very similar. But like Kelvin timeline they're like Marvel movies. They're like action flicks.
Exactly.
Have you seen the Gorn in Strange New Worlds?
Yeah, but that's
I'm not saying that.
And that's more like horror movie than action movie.
I don't know. I don't know if you could do because I was excited for the fourth one because I liked the first three, but I was also like, I don't know where they're fucking going with this. Yeah. And the movies are doing the same thing that like movies like that do, where it's like, okay, like every single goddamn thing has to be a threat to Starfleet.
Right.
Like an existential threat. Yeah. And there's, that's the only thing we can handle.
It's like watching shonen anime. Somehow the enemy keeps getting stronger and stronger.
Right.
After you defeat the last one.
And to the credit of like the earlier movies and stuff, like Insurrection, that movie wasn't existential to the Federation at all. Like it was just this one isolated little thing going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there were a couple other movies that were like that. Khan, the original Wrath of Khan wasn't like this crazy threat to Starfleet. It was just Khan wanted to fuck with Kirk, and then he was going to take off. So like there's this tendency, and I don't know. I don't want to blame anyone. It's just how cinema works anymore, and really how storytelling works when we know that we have to keep making stories in the same universe. Is that like
keep ratcheting it up?
Yes, and it happened in fucking World of Warcraft. It happens in D&D. It's happened in the Marvel movies. It's happening in the Kelvin timeline.
Yeah, I agree. So this one gets a red light from me.
I would be interested if someone would take the time and effort to project forward the Kelvin timeline and what would be different enough about it to do a TNG era in there.
Now you're talking.
That would be interesting. Either as a TV show or as a movie. Like, I would be okay with that being a movie. But, like, That
Oh,
would
man.
be interesting.
You get a British Picard with a French accent.
And because there's some interesting, Vulcan is destroyed and all this other stuff. Like, I don't know. You could do some interesting stuff with that.
Yeah. All right. So, looks like we got 3 here. We got Hope Ship, The Lions of the Night, and Final Frontier. Everything else was rightfully dismissed by Paramount Studios. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this week's Potpourri. Thanks, everybody, for hanging in here with us. As Chris mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we'd really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, comment, whatever you would do on your particular podcast platform. Those all go a long way to helping promote us on the platforms. Aside from that, you guys have anything else?
Nope. That'll call.
All right. Well, have a nice weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to Captain's Log Supplemental. You can follow us on Twitter at PodCLS or send us hate mail at podcls3@gmail.com.